Damn, son, where'd you find this?
People don't be offended by the truth. They be offended because you called out the truth. Simple as that. They don't want to hear any other narrative that makes them look bad.
And one thing I can't stand at this big grown age is somebody who act like cause and effect does not exist. Like, yes, your actions caused this outcome. Yes, what you did lit the match. Like, why are you surprised and playing victim?
Guys, Chico, they never lied.
That's how you know somebody doesn't respect you. They listen to reply, not to be understood. They cut you off. They minimize what actually matters to you. They laugh at your boundaries, and then they call you sensitive when you try to hold the line. They show up late, they cancel last minute, forget the things you've told them, because in their world, your time, your energy, even your voice aren't a priority. They're just an option. You see, there are two kinds of people. Those who adjust when they realize they've actually hurt you, and those who expect you to adjust so they don't have to change. You don't need to be disrespected loudly to be disrespected deeply. Sometimes you'll see it. It's just in their tone, in their patterns, in the silence after you're known. Respect isn't what they say when they're watching. It's how they act when they think you'll tolerate it.
Mantra, slave song, slave ship, rip skin, made me rip bones. But no matter how close I am, my ancestors speak. They tell me the tide isn't run on us like we're weak. I haven't been getting sleep. Longing to sing until I surpass peak. Until they think we are equal, please. All I want is peace. My ancestors beat drums until their bones would bleed. Begging the generations remember our story.
Good morning, people. Peace, praise, glory, and honor to the Most High. I hope you all enjoyed your weekend. How everybody feeling? Staying warm? Still holding up your end of the bargain going into this year? I hope so. Shout outs to my poets, my writers, my content creators, all of y'all, man. Everybody that's watching, that's been following the last few weeks. Thank you for being here. I got Coach in the building. You see the title. We're going to jump straight into it. Let me bring the brother up. Matter of fact, let me put this up here on the screen before I forget it. So if y'all need to keep in contact with him, you know how. Just take your phone out, use that scanner. Bada bing, bada boom. You locked in. It only take you just a second. What's up, man? Good morning.
Yo, what's up, man? Good morning. Good morning. Happy to be here, man. Wanted to ask you how that event went on Friday, man. Did you end up doing the open mic night?
It went well. No complaints. No complaints. Ebb and flow. You know, we had some hiccups, but we made it do what it do, regardless. You know, it was dope. How was your weekend?
Man, it was good, man. It was good. A lot of self-reflecting. You know, got some time to do that. Got a little cold out here, so had to bunker down a little bit, man. But other than that, man, all is well.
Okay. Well, look, I'm gonna bring this up on the big screen. Shout out to this brother. He been doing this for a few years now. He goes out on the street. He basically interviews different people on relationships. It's typically based around dating and things of that nature. And I seen this on IG. I saved it. Figured we could spin back and talk about this particular story. So I'm gonna let it play for those of you who didn't see this, and we're gonna chop it up. Hold up, let me see.
I do. If we were dating and they wanted to spend time with you one-on-one, how would you react?
Okay, so a lot of the guys that I date with do not condone me having guy friends, but unfortunately, because I'm single and no one has asked me for marriage, I'm gonna continue to have guy friends. I rather guy friends than female friends.
So you're saying that you're single until married,
Absolutely,
even if we were boyfriend girlfriend.
absolutely.
So if I said, "Yo, my boundary is no hanging out with this dude who I don't know,"
As a girlfriend, you don't have that ability to tell me what I can and cannot do because there's no ring on my finger and because there's someone out there that's going to give me the full throttle of what I want. I believe that.
but if we're together, why would you want to break
Okay, so
that?
let me reverse the question, right? So we're together, right? And you have a fan base of female friends, right? Will you hang out with them?
Not if it's something you didn't like.
Okay, so I like your thought process. A lot of guys won't think like that.
Initial thoughts.
I mean, she was within her boundaries to say how she feels. So
Agreed. Just to say this real quick, nobody's entitled to make you live however they want you to live based on how they want to live. Here's the problem, or where the conversation starts to open up a little broader. She says, for her personally, and I don't know if a lot of women think like this, but for her personally, she says that me being a girlfriend does not give you the right to impose your level of boundaries on me. So if I want to have people outside of you still in my life, whether or not they like me or they don't, you don't have no say so in that until you say I do, or will you marry me? And there's a lot of people have pushback with that. So I want to break down real quick why her preferences they're fine for her, and why there's so much issue with what she said. So can you elaborate on why, it's okay for her to feel how she feels about this versus another person coming into her life and saying, look, we dating, this is supposed to be exclusive. What's up? How are you telling me, all right, we're not married? So does that mean that I can step outside of the relationship too? Like, how does this work?
I mean, it's a no-brainer, man. If that's what the person wants, I mean, you can't make somebody do something they don't want to do or that you want them to do. So, I mean, if that person is telling you that, then you have two choices: stay or go. I mean, it's not really. It's not a big discussion there. If you're not happy or you don't want to live that type of lifestyle with somebody, then leave. You can't tell somebody how they want to live, whether you got a ring or whatever the case may be. You just can't. I mean, if that's not conducive for you, then why are you still there in the relationship? That's obviously something that you don't want any parts of. So again, we keep trying to take things off of the individuals, and we're thinking of the hive mind and the masses and what everybody's telling us to do. If that person is not interested in solely being with you, then you got to put that ego to the side and pack your belongings and move on.
I agree. I'm trying to be careful with how I word this. And I
Just
say
say it,
this,
man. We can clean it up. Just say it.
like the way that she's talking, her ass is going to be single for the rest of her life. Because if she's saying, all right, we in a relationship, but he can't have girls on the side, like, what's the conversation? What the fuck did y'all talk? Like, for real, what did y'all talk about at the beginning of this shit? That shit, like, it's confusing. I don't care. I don't care if you say, all right, you got friends on the side and stuff like that, and you ain't leaving no friend. I'm gonna just be like, all right, well, shit, I'm about to do the same. We just gonna keep it like that.
See, that's what I'm confused about. Why are you saying that you were about to do the same versus just leaving and finding somebody else? I don't get it.
Because maybe you still just want to crack.
So no self-control. Because there's reasons, man. We can't keep, just making excuses for why we keep making bad decisions. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, you can solely do that. 100% you can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. But just identify why you continue to do so is what I'm saying.
So I'm not saying me personally, but I'm saying like older me, or I mean a younger me, or someone in this generation, they're gonna look at it like, well, shit, I like you, but we have an understanding that this is an open relationship. If that's the conversation, of course. This doesn't sound like it's an open relationship, but if you tell me, and I do have the option to leave, but I still want to crack, so I just don't have to take you serious anymore.
Right.
I can just move according to how you decide to move with your own personal situation. So if you got people on the side, or you got your friend group and all that, then I don't have to really fall in love with you. I ain't got to invest in you and do this and do that. I can keep you at a distance, but still, that's irresponsible, of course. But everybody got their own.
Well, it's Monday. So last week, pick any day of the week, we were talking about red flags. So today, that will be identified as a red flag if that's not something that you identify with. You know what I mean? I think we just got to focus more on making better decisions, man. If you still, thinking with your penis and you still want to crack, that's completely up to you. So then we look towards, your mindset and how you go about looking at things. You're engaged in a relationship and somebody's openly telling you that that's what they're about, and it's not something good. So we identifying that you've identified a red flag and you're moving past it. Okay, great. So you're not a good decision maker. So you still want to pursue, that type of person. So, what is it about you that wants to pursue that type of person? Not you personally, just, hypothetical in general. So, that goes to the mindset of the people that's out there. And also looking at the video, they have a younger demographic. So then it just goes to see what type of people that they have in their lives, and what type of, role models, parents, siblings that are setting those type of examples for them. So I would say on both parties, the young lady for saying that she wants to do that, and the individual who would engage in a relationship with that person. So, you know what I mean? So I understand what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. You just got to look at the mindset of the two individuals that want to engage in that type of relationship. It could be nothing wrong with it, but if that's not what you're seeking and you still want to crack, as you say, then, it sounds like you got bigger issues, man. Not you personally.
No, I know. I know what you're talking about. And like we're addressing the other party for deciding, well, I'm gonna still slide in, but we're not addressing the fact that what she just said was kind of like, man, I don't know what the fuck a relationship is. The relationship to me looks like I can still do what the hell I want, and if you want to be a part of my program, then you're going to have to accept the fact that I got other men around me. And she said she prefers men. She don't even like being around women. That's another thing that I want to address. But she don't even keep females around her. So why do you need a whole bunch of dudes around you in a relationship at all in the first place?
Well, that could be because of how she was raised, right? It could be if she was raised around a lot of men, a lot of uncles, a lot of brothers, cousins, male cousins, different dynamics. A lot of, and it's not something that's uncommon today because, a lot of estrogen in the room. A lot of women tend to be, they talk about themselves. They be more catty. You know what I'm saying? Versus going to hang out with a dude, they can be themselves, not be judged by other women. So that's something that's real popular today. And it's also a lot of men find that, being around a lot of women also is more popular because also being around other women, you learn how to maneuver with your lady. You know what I mean? Some things that she may or may not talk about or share with you. So you can learn insights from both genres. But, again, it just depends on what the intent and the objective is.
True or false? A man being around women looks better than a woman being around all men.
What do you mean by looks?
The aesthetic of it.
Yeah, so again, that subjectivity, for one, it depends on like what type of environment. Is it a work environment? Is it a lounge setting, social setting? What type of environment, what type of activities are being taking place? So I think that varies. It may look, the perception may be bad if a woman's in a social environment, i.e. a bar, networking event with a lot of dudes, not a lot of women, versus a man being in one. But it's all about perspective. I don't think it matters one way or the other. It just depends on how mature you are and how you navigate within that organization.
What's more likely to be true? A group of men being around a woman who wants to fuck, or a group of women being around a man that wants to do the same?
I can't speak to people's mindset, but humans just being humans, depending on the setting, the right vibe, both things could be true.
The reason I'm asking the question is because she clearly has been taught by somebody to believe that there's things that you have to give up in order for me to perform to this certain standard. You can't be a wife if you don't act like a wife in a relationship. Or is that impossible? Because I don't believe that you can be you can't be a girlfriend, pick and choose when and where you want to be this and be that, but then expect somebody to say, will you marry me?
Yeah, I mean, that's all in the conversation, man. You talk about, like the young man mentioned boundaries in the video, so that's something that you talk about, boundaries. You talk about, what type of interactions, engagements that you're comfortable with, that you're not comfortable with. But again, it's not on that person to necessarily concede to what you're comfortable with. They might have had a different background, different experiences. And different experiences, shape different outcomes in the future for people. So you may be on the same path, but your objectives may be different. Like you say, you're talking about the definition of a wife. Somebody else's definition of a wife might be different. So that's something you need to have a conversation about. Or just, in passing, when you meet somebody, whatever short types of conversations you're having, that's should be predicting your future. Do you like these type of things? You say yes. Okay, we end up doing those type of things. That's how it goes. So, or if you don't, you pivot and you don't do those type of things. So that way, it won't put you in a situation where, you're giving somebody a ring and you necessarily don't like the things that they like. So, but again, you're talking about young people, man. They was young as shit in that video. So you might be asking for too much.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate. Listening to her talk, I could tell social media raised her to some extent, because no adult is talking like that unless you still ain't came out of high school. mentally. I mean, like you 50 years old and you still want to be the captain of the football team and the fucking queen of the prom, and you still act like that. But nah, nah. Um,
So one thing that you just said, right? Because it's important. You said be 50 years old and still acting like something. When people go through trauma, what happens is it just depends on what age they go through trauma. And if they don't heal and get over that trauma, they're still stuck at that age that initial trauma happened. So you do have 30, 40, 50-year-olds walking around with a 14, 15, 16-year-old mindset, because that's when they went through the trauma and they didn't heal from it. You know how people always say, damn, you act like a little ass kid. You know what I mean? That's because the trauma that they went to maybe at 13, 14, and they 25, 30 and never got over it, they still revert to acting like that kid that went through that trauma and lashing out to try to get some type of recognition. And that's what happens with unhealed trauma. And she could be going through some type of trauma. You know what I'm saying? Hence in the fact that she's talking about whatever she's talking about, and she's talking about that, projecting it into the future, that she'll still act that way. Because people can't see themselves getting over it without doing the work.
Do you think that we typically run from our bad experiences and to cope with them? Instead, we kind of brush it underneath the rug and kind of move on, or try to move on with our life and put it to the back of the line, but it never works out. Are we just
you play basketball? You ever play basketball or watch basketball practice?
Yeah.
Imagine somebody doing suicides. People run from the trauma, running in the other direction, and then they run back to the trauma, if that makes sense. So people run from their traumas until they run into another problem, and then they run back to the trauma. Oh, it's because I did this. Oh, it's because I went through this. So they kind of go back and forth, ping pong, and back and forth. You know what I'm saying? So they'll say what happened in the past, and they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to problem solve, because when you problem solve, you do have to relive that trauma, but just for the moment to realize what initiated it and the reaction. And now you need to come up with a plan, of course, action of how you're going to process it and go through that trauma. But they don't do that. When it comes to the accountability piece and holding them accountable, they run back to the trauma. If that makes sense. They scurry away defense mechanisms and the trauma that happened and cause it. So it becomes the initiator, and then they shelter at the same time. So that's what happens when you don't get over the trauma.
I was just about to say, it's like you built a shrine for it.
Absolutely.
Like a little personal temple you go back to for some type of weird comfort or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Perfect man, that's a great scenario. So think about somebody who lost a loved one or a parent, right? They don't get over it. And then they build a wall, or they put up pictures, and they go back to it for comfort. So you're never getting over it, because you keep going back to that trauma thinking that you're finding comfort in it. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? So that person may no longer be here, and you may have pictures of them, and then every now and then you go back to look at the pictures, and you think you're finding comfort, but you're reigniting that trauma. And not telling you that you should forget about those people or get over it, but you do have to process it. You have to go through the process of getting over that trauma, and then you can revert back and have those memories. But you're not having memories, you're having coping mechanisms, right? Because you're going back to cope on and with that trauma. You're not trying to get over and process through the trauma. There's a difference.
So currently, we have a scenario where there is a subset of women out here that think just like her, and it is subjective. You can agree or disagree with it. I scrolled through some of the comments that a lot of people, men specifically, they're laughing at that. They're like, oh well, okay, you can think like that, and that's fine. But here's the thing. is her mindset cultivating the type of relationship that she's inevitably going to want in the future? And I'm not talking about her specifically. I'm talking about individuals who think like her, where you telling me I come into your world, we decide to share intimate pieces of ourselves. I bring what I stand for, my guidelines, my principles, this, that, and the third. You bring yours, and then you tell me, oh, I'm only going to half do this. I'm only going to half or give you 30% of this, but you have to do this. Is that mindset going to get them to the destination that they want later on?
It'll get them to the destination that they manifested. So the destination that they want may be marital bliss, kids, money, whatever it is that they want. But what they've manifested is to be in a toxic relationship. And being in a toxic relationship won't get you to the happy place that you quote unquote manifested. It'll get you to an altered version of it, but it won't be that happy place. Because remember, we talked about, still advancing and still moving forward. So she'll still be able to advance and move forward. But that power of manifestation, she's manifesting toxic relationships. So she's putting the work in and the ethic in. Those toxic relationships, they'll be manifested. And then that's when she'll wonder why she's getting treated maybe poorly or maybe in a way that she didn't necessarily think that she would be treated for manifesting that type of relationship. So then that's when, those bad experiences come along, and then it'll be what she does next. Do you bash men and talk about how, they ain't shit? They're not helping out. They're not providers. They're not, the way they come up with, and that'll all be based on the toxic pattern that she developed upon herself. And then men will probably get blamed for it, and then that'll be, another topic to talk about that day.
Yeah, that's where I was alluding to, because like at the end of the day, we are eventually going to reflect what we think about ourselves. You plant your own seeds, you water your own garden. You decide how much sun comes in. You decide what the soil is going to look like, if it's healthy or not. You have to figure that out. And I find it disturbing that he had to play the reverse Uno card on her for her to understand, well, put yourself in my shoes. Let's say if the roles were reversed. And I'm telling you, look, for you, I'm going to cut everybody off. Like you said, everybody's perception of what a husband or what a wife looks like might be completely different. I think some stuff is universally obvious, but then there's still things that folks are debating over. But she said, I don't think most men really think like that. I didn't really know that. So what does that tell me? Who are you around? What type of relationships do you have with these dudes that you're dealing with? For you to say, oh shit, there's actually men out here that have some type of respect for their partner. If I'm uncomfortable with these women around him, he's willing to do this for me. I'm not used to that. Like, she sounded like she was really surprised by that part.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't she be? So I mean, look at the world we live in, man. the shit we talk about every day, we're not really talking about anything positive, man. We talk about negativity and dumb shit that happens on the internet every day. So if that's all that's being consumed and talked about, why would they think there's anything else that's out there? So there's nothing saying that she came from a 2-parent home. You know, there's nothing saying that she might have been raised, you know, saying by, you know, quote unquote, healthy version of a family. You know, and even if she was, there's nothing saying that she retained the information. She probably, as these kids do now, they cut off their parents and don't necessarily want to hear things that's coming from them. So they go online and they look at, you know, Cardi B and, you know, who's having kids by, you know, somebody who's got 5 or 6 other baby mothers. She's still technically married. I mean, you don't see any version of healthy relationships online. You know what I mean? So you see some, you can quote unquote say Jay-Z and Beyonce because we're talking about the internet. You can, you know, if you want, and I'm using people of color at this particular point in time. So you can quote unquote say, you know, Obamas, but everybody's heard stories and rumors about them. So again, it just depends on, you know, what's your version of, you know, of her history and what she's been displayed. Because if she was, like you said, raised off TikTok, and then we talk about boundaries, because say if she didn't have a dad in the house, you look at these TikTok videos, you got a lot of mother and daughter duos on there, shaking their ass, dancing. You got some that's not, but we'll talk about the negativity. You know, some that's doing some things that it's not necessarily, you know, quote unquote, mothers and daughters should be doing. Again, lack of boundaries. So if that's the type of things that they're learning, then how do you expect them to go out there, you know, into the real world and implement and be successful? And I'll just give you a different side of it. Think about dads, right? A dad typically take his son, they're going out hunting, you know, going out, you know, say something's being learned, right? Something that be able to move forward in life. The dad's teaching them some type of skill or trade. And you just think about, you know, again, with some of these young ladies that's out there, they might not necessarily be getting the same type of guardianship, the same type of mentorship, you know, from that dad being in the household. So that could be, and it could not be, you know what I mean? But I'm just giving you two sides of it.
You need both parties in the house. But I'll say this, even if you have both parties in the house, that doesn't mean that you're actually going to get out of them the desired results either, because one person can be completely up there, and then it's like one person is offsetting for the other person, and it's a whole thing. But if you want the best of both, you need the father and you need the mom for various reasons. She definitely comes off. I don't know nothing about her other than this. If you are growing up around a bunch of men and you're used to being around them, matter of fact, this was it just came back to me. Is there even a such thing as a sisterhood? Is the sisterhood real? Is that whole thing real? Because you telling me that you prefer to be around nothing but men, but then in the same breath, y'all posting on social media talking about women need to stick together and this, that, and the third. But you don't even want to be around y'all. So, like, which one is it? I never understood that part. You shaming each other, but then you defend each other when certain behaviors get called out. And then it's you against the world, but you don't want to be around each other when it comes to what? Validation. You want the attention. You want all the eyes on you. Is that why you prefer to have nothing but dudes around you? Because you could say, all right, I feel protected. They're more honest. Matter of fact, put it this way: are you around or choose to be around them for all the above, or is it specific pieces of that you enjoy that you're not going to get from being around women, because you know that y'all don't hold each other accountable, or there is barely accountability on y'all parts when it comes to the dynamics of relationships, business, uh, being a real friend to the person, telling them like what it really is. Like, what is that? I prefer to be around men. I can't be around women. Well, tell us why you prefer not to. Oh, you don't have to. We already know why. I know why. Because for the most part, y'all contradict yourself just like men contradict themselves, but you do it more, or you do it so well that people don't catch on to it a lot of times. So, like, which one is it? Does the sisterhood exist, or doesn't it? And instead of us having this conversation about what she just said, why aren't you? And do you think honestly that every single guy that's around you is just around you because they want to be your friend? Just saying. To each his own though. Your preference. You can keep around you who you want to keep around you. But remember, at the same token, you reap what you sow. And whatever you planting into these relationships, you're damn sure guaranteed you're going to get back exactly what you put into it. So, question: is it really that difficult to determine what a husband and what a wife is supposed to look like? Is it really that hard to figure out?
You asking me, or that was rhetorical?
I'm asking.
Again, man, that's it's up to each individual person. You talking about husband and wife, from a time when that's the only thing that existed. Now you got men marrying men, you got women marrying women, you got all kind of different dynamics. So, the world you keep referencing is not up to date with what's going on in 2026. So these folks are redefining whatever it is that they're doing and doing it their way. And if you don't like it, again, you don't have to partake in it, but that's what's happening. Good, bad, or indifferent.
If you have her mindset, that's perfectly fine. And this go for men and women. Have the conversation at the beginning. Don't wait and then start trying to be assertive and throw your weight around and compromise, and don't do that. Have the conversation early so you don't waste each other's time, and figure out what you want to do moving forward. Because there's always going to be one person that's taking this more serious than the other, depending on your environment, your age group. I feel kind of bad for her though, not her specifically, but people who think like her. Because guess what? Like you said, is you're going to cultivate toxic situations. It's either going to be a guy who ain't dealing with that, and he going to say, you know what, I'm cool. I'm looking for something permanent, something solid. They'll bid you adieu. And then you have the other side. They they gonna play the game right along with you. They know you ain't wife material. You can't be a wife if you don't carry yourself like one. I'm not talking about man on man, woman on woman. I'm talking about like the core attributes biologically woven within a person that makes them a husband or a wife for somebody. You're not going to come to me and pick and choose when you want to be a provider, a leader, or nurturing, kind, my peace, and all. Nah, not it's not conditional. But there's two sides to it, and when it all boils down to a structure, one seems one is built on sand, the other one is built on a rock. Who you listening to? Who you getting your advice from? Who's telling you, oh, it's okay to be neglectful of his needs and his wants? If he's going through stuff, you don't have to care about it. You don't have to be empathetic towards him. Or you want to weaponize sex in the relationship? That's fine. To get what you want, you shouldn't have to weaponize nothing to get what you want out of your person. Be just straight up. I don't want nothing serious. But if I do decide to do or take this serious, then we can negotiate or we can talk about how we're going to meet in the middle. Because both parties have to be on the same accord. And a lot of y'all never are. He's supposed to give 100% and you only give 60-40. Does that sound logical? Does that make sense to them? Not you. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about me. Does that make sense to me? Does that sound like something that I want to invest in? Nah. But you cool. You can go do what you do. I'm all right. I keep on trucking it until I find somebody who fits my own vibe. Then you can keep on living like that and see how it work out for you. So anything you want to close out with before we go?
Nah, man. Good show.
Shout out to the people in the building. Appreciate y'all for hanging out with us. We got another one later on. Tap in, you know what I'm saying? 7 p.m. Eastern. Have a blessed day. Do me a solid before y'all go, if you don't mind.
What's the goddamn button?
Peace.
Mantra, slave song, slave ship, rip skin, made me rip bones. But no matter how close I hide, my ancestors speak. They tell me the tide isn't run on us like we're weak. I haven't been getting sleep. Longing to sing until I surpass peak. Until they think we are equal, please. All I want is peace. My ancestors beat drums until their phones would reach.